Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and this week, after 9 long years, the FNAF movie is finally upon us. And I gotta ask you guys, are you ready for Freddy? But on a serious note, by the time this video comes out, the FNAF movie should be out today. So before you guys go out to watch the movie, be sure to watch my video first. While Freddy is obviously the face of the franchise, his name is literally in the title, you can make a serious case for William Afton or Springtrap to be the most noteworthy character in the franchise. For starters, he's by far the most reoccurring character in the franchise, and at the moment, he's very akin to a slasher, especially in the ways that he tends to defy death and return for the sequel. Like he puts it,
I always come back.
So with that line of insight, I thought about what slasher should I put him up against? And what slasher better than Michael Myers himself, the literal OG of the genre. He's not super strong like Jason Voorhees, and he's not a hacksmonger like Freddy Krueger, for example. So I thought this would be a fun, even matchup. And there's some narrative similarities, as William Afton's the guy that's packing up kids, while Big Mike over here was packing people up since he was a kid. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. But first, if you like FNAF scaling, be sure to check out these two videos here. But if you're interested in power scaling at all, this is your channel. We upload weekly videos and we cover a wide variety of topics, from Godzilla to Five Nights at Freddy's. This is your channel. And with all that garbage out the way, let's get into the matchup. Well, I might as well start off by talking about which Michael Myers I'll be talking for this video. And to keep it simply, I will be using the newer one from the reboot continuity. So this Michael Myers portion of the video will include feats from the original film and the recent trilogy. And plus, this is the only Michael Myers continuity I've seen, so like, this is the variant of Michael Myers that I'm the most comfortable talking about, because I have the most context. So starting off with Michael Myers' lower ends, he should firmly be around street level. Honestly, his durability would warrant this alone, but we'll get into that later. Michael Myers is consistently stated to be more than a man multiple times, as well as having a statement that says you can't beat him with brute force. Though these are like average people, pedestrians in the film saying this, the narrative of the film heavily implies these statements to be the case, meaning that bare minimum Michael Myers would be around street level in terms of physical AP, because street level is peak human, and Michael Myers as well.
Or was it more than a man?
But we can start to get into the wall levels in terms of physical attack potency, as he has numerous showcases in the trilogy to warrant this level of power. Michael Myers can casually kick in a police partition. Police partitions are designed to keep both the prisoners as well as the officer safe. They're designed to kind of reduce impacts of anything to the vehicle, so like during high speed chases they can reduce damages to the people in the car, because they don't want the prisoner to find a way to sue the officer in question. So these police partitions are pretty durable, and Michael Myers can push it in by like stretching his legs. And ironically, Big Mike definitely does leg day, as in the next scene he's able to crush a man's head in like a watermelon. And fortunately for us, the Versus Wiki has quantified the amount of force that is required to perform this feat, with 3 different values depending on the overall damage, with them all being wall level. As for durability, it should scale to his AP and he would be around wall level, and he has a lot of feats to back this up. He can survive multiple gunshots as well as an entire beating from a mob of men. He survived a police cruiser ramming into him, which would mean he's taking anywhere from 3,900 to 31,000 joules of force, or anywhere from street to wall level for power scaling terms. I believe it would be closer to the higher ends, as the officer in question said brace yourself, and he made a conscious effort to run down Michael Myers. Moving on to his speed now, he should be around subsonic, as this is the speed required to blitz human perception. In his first appearance, he's arguably able to blitz Lori's perception, as he's shown to disappear from her line of vision despite her never looking away from him. You could argue this to be like an outlier, or kind of just like cinematic magic or something like that, but in the novelization for Halloween Kills, during the scene where he souls the mob, it's stated he was moving like a blur of motion while moving throughout the crowd of people to kill them. So you can argue subsonic, and it really wouldn't be that inconsistent. To reiterate, in a group of 17 people, he was stated to move like a blur. If anything, you could argue that his sluggish walk could just be his preference or something like that. I don't know, he's crazy after all. But to wrap up the Michael Myers segment of the video, he would be anywhere from street to wall level in terms of AP. His durability should be relative to that, and as for speed, he'd be anywhere from peak human to possibly even subsonic. And this would scale to his attack speed and not just his travel speed, as he was traveling at those speeds while attacking people. So his movements and reactions should scale to that. And overall, of the previous 2 people I have put up against a FNAF character, consistently he's by far the strongest. So will Michael Myers be the first one to break the perfect record that the FNAF franchise has on this channel, or will he be reduced to another victim? So with that question in all of our minds, let's get into Springtrap. To start to gauge the attack potency of William Afton, we're gonna have to talk about his previous base as a human before becoming Springtrap. William Afton during this time period has two notable feats. One feat being him one-shotting Withered Freddy during the Save Me minigame of FNAF 2, and another feat is him overpowering the OG gang in the FNAF 3 minigames. And if you're a little hesitant to kind of use that for viable scaling, in the FNAF 6 ending Insanity, it's confirmed that William Afton overpowered the original animatronics. So the 8-bit sprite demonstration of what happened is probably the most accurate. William, by upscaling the OG gang and Withered Freddy, is pretty notable because these animatronics should be in the same ballpark, if not higher than the animatronics seen at Fredbear's Family Diner, which you guys know caused the bite of 83, which is around wall level. There's also the fact that these guys all have statements saying that they could tear off limbs and dismember people, so that's some casual street level scaling as well. Before I move to the attack potency of Springtrap, I'm gonna have to talk about the novels, as they are separate canon, but things can be likened to each other, and things such as the power demonstrated should be relative across continuities. So some of the scaling I get from the books should be usable for the canon Springtrap. But as you guys know, William Afton becomes Springtrap, where yes, he is stated to be stronger than he was as William Afton. It's stated in the novels that William was ecstatic in his newfound power. So base Springtrap would just upscale all the things we just talked about. So casual wall level scaling and such. This is also shown through his durability, as Afton is able to survive the fire at Fazbear's Frights, which would put his durability at around wall level as well. The important thing to note is that Remnant, which we will get into later, is stated to be somewhat nullified via fire, meaning that Springtrap was at his weakest and didn't really scale to his previous base while demonstrating wall level durability. William also during this time period was literally able to stomp out the Funtime animatronics. These are some of the strongest lines of animatronics in the verse, and they're stated to be top of the line, and they have a lot of statements indicating that to be the case. So they would upscale even the toy animatronics, which if you guys remember our last video on the subject, are stated to be stronger than the OG gang consistently. The toys also have casual wall level calcs, as a toy-esque animatronic was able to break 100 bones in a child at once. And one of the fun times being Ballora has shown wall level durability, as she has a feat where she was able to no-sell 2 strikes with a scooper. And yes, the attack potency of the scooper has been calculated to be around wall level. So Afton being able to smash them in is probably the most impressive thing you're gonna get out of him, as he's literally a one-shot's difference stronger than the scooper. With this scaling chain, you can make a decent argument for Afton being around small building level, but moving on to speed, he should be around superhuman to subsonic, as FNAF animatronics in-game are visually shown to disappear in and out of rooms. And before you say FNAF time is different than real life time, please consider all of the guidebooks consistently call the FNAF animatronics fast, and say they move faster throughout the night, inferring their game speed is accurate to their actual speed. Then stack all the novels that consistently say they move like blurs, you can make a serious case for subsonic. Springtrap himself also has a superhuman speed calc where he's crawling unironically. And even more blatantly, he's stated to move like a race car. The average race car moves around 200 miles per hour, which is subsonic. And before you guys say this is hyperbole, the scene and scan in question involves the characters getting literally blitzed. You can read it on screen, but I don't think it's hyperbole. So overall, Springtrap's a menace. So if the stats of both of our combatants laid out, who wins? While both of these guys have pretty solid wall level scaling, to the credit of William Afton, he seems to scale to it a little bit more casual, as the wall level stuff from Michael Myers kind of left him incapacitated for a decent amount of time. Compare this to Springtrap, who should scale both characters who can output and endure that force casually, as Springtrap is around small building to building level as peak, as we've previously discussed. In the speed department, it's kind of the same story, with both of them having subsonic metas, but one of them just being deeper into it, as FNAF characters generally have more perception blitzing feats, and it's literally a shown in-game mechanic and essential to gameplay, and it's supported throughout the numerous spin-offs and guidebooks. And guys, let's say that Michael Myers has building level AP. Oddly enough, his blows are going to be essentially useless in this scenario, as he has no real way of permanently getting rid of William Afton. And to drive this notion in, we're going to have a little discussion about Remnant, and more specifically, Agony. This concept is really expanded upon in the books, but it's a very important thing, and it's an aspect of the game William Afton's character that is left out of the game, so it's safe to say something as important as this should be applicable to the games as well. And Remnant is basically a metallic substance used as the in-universe explanation as to why things are haunted, with it being explained that Remnant can trap souls and stop them from going to the afterlife and tie them to certain objects or animatronics, which seems to be what happens in the series the most. William is basically a master of the stuff, and he's aware of its properties, and he can do a whole bunch of stuff with it, including but not limited to immortality. As with Remnant, Afton essentially has eternal life, as he cannot be stopped as long as his remnant and agony still exist. A good example of this is the time he literally sat in place for 30 years after being caught in the spring locks of the spring Bonnie suit. Yeah, that really weird scene where he just kind of sits down for 30 years after being spring locked, that was remnant. Pretty lazy writing, I know, but it is what it is. So let's say Michael Myers has the attack potency to brute force the animatronic shell. Afton's true form is a spirit, and he doesn't actually have a physical form. And Afton could just simply possess any object or even people if he wanted to. So theoretically, William Afton could just come back. So even if Mike had the AP to fold Springtrap, it would only be a temporary victory and not a real win con. While Michael Myers has shown that he can be defeated or incapacitated via raw physical methods, and Springtrap has more than enough attack potency to spare. And before any of you guys say, yes, in the final film of the series, Halloween Ends, Michael Myers was back to his previous peak in power. As once he got the mask, it stated in the novelization that all of his wounds were healed and he had returned to his previous base in power, where he would go on to lose a fight to Laurie Strode via environmental needs for sure, but the encounter still proved that Michael is susceptible to physical means. Unironically, all that stuff Laurie was talking about Michael Myers at the end of Halloween Ends is more applicable to Springtrap. So to answer the original question that this video proposed, Springtrap would beat Michael Myers. And with that, we're done with another video. But before I dip out, I want to give a special thanks to Shararis, as he lent a very important hand to the Springtrap part of the video. He has a channel right here, and it will be in the description. But basically, he's a FNAF plug for each and every one of my FNAF videos. He's very useful to me, and without him, this video would not nearly be as well as it is. So give his channel some love. It will be in the description, so yeah, head on to his channel. But anyways, we'll be back next week. And remember, enjoy the FNAF movie today, guys.